Human Services Committee to order. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. The chair will entertain a motion. Thank you, Commissioner Snell and Commissioner Bear. Any questions with respect to the agenda? All in favor will please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next item is public comment. Public comment is now open. Any public comment? Last call for public comment. Public comment is now closed. We now move to committee items. First item is minutes from last month's meeting. The chair will entertain a motion.
So, support.
Thank you, Commissioner Snell and Commissioner Willis. Any questions with respect to the minutes? All in favor will please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We're now up to appointments. The perennial openings on the Sanitary Code Board of Appeals still appear to be vacant. Are there any nominations from the floor? Hearing none, we'll repost those again. If anybody's aware of construction contractors or well drillers who want to be alternates on the Sanitary Code Board of Appeals, please advise. Now we move on to Medical Care Facility Financial Report. Madam Director is here.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So for today, I'd like to focus on a Medicaid audit that we had conducted as part of the normal audit process. And so I have presented you with a packet of information, and I'd just like to go through that packet and then answer any questions that you have regarding this Medicaid audit. So I know you received an email from Commissioner Pileski about what was reported in the DHHS board report, which included the potential of a take-back of $1.7 million for Medicaid. With that, I wanted to provide a little bit more context on what has occurred and what we currently believe the liability to be. So on page 1 of your packet, you'll see a timeline. And on this timeline, the very first line of the timeline outlines the facility's timeline for how Medicaid cost report works. So we operate on the state fiscal year. So this cost report is looking at money spent for resident care between 10/1 of 21 and 9/30 of 22. This cost report was submitted on 5/31 of 23. On the second line, you will find the monies that we received from Medicaid as a result of what was reported on this cost report. On 11/16 of 23, we received $2.1 million. On 1/5 of 24, we received about $500,000. And now looking towards the end of that line, you'll see that we are estimating a take-back amount of about $1.3 to $1.5 million. In the red line is the timeline for the Medicaid audit. So the Medicaid audit began on 9/25 of 24. This is the standard timeline for audit. That was the entrance conference, and it concluded with an exit conference on 10/25 of 24. After that exit conference, we had our board meeting on 10/28, which was one business day after the exit conference when we were notified of this large adjustment. This was reported to the DHHS board at that time. On 10/30 of 24, they officially closed the audit, which was 3 days, business days after we were notified of the adjustment. On 10/31, we chose to waive our 30-day appeal rights in order to be able to receive the invoice in a quicker manner. Because of the issues with the audit, we did not believe that they were appealable. This was 4 business days after our notification. As of today, we are 8 business days after the close of the audit and 11 business days after the notification of this adjustment. We also held an additional meeting with the board on 11/4 to further address this adjustment and the impact to financials. If you turn to the next page of your packet, I'm going to outline both of the adjustments that occurred during the Medicaid audit. The first was for just under 1.2 million. This was a reduction in the retiree employee insurance benefit expenses, or OPEB expenses. This expense was recorded on the cost report as 1.5 million, which matches the facility's annual financial statements. However, the Medicaid cost report limits the facility in claiming actuarial adjustments. It has to be actual expenses paid. So this should have been removed from the cost report. Under that, you'll see the typical procedure that would occur. So in this case, the cost report preparer would do this adjustment prior to filing the annual cost report. But due to a compressed timeline, the cost report preparer felt that this was where things came off the rails with this particular adjustment. So we had received the actuarial report from the county a little later than usual. A filing deadline for the cost report was May 31st. It was also our first financial statement audit with a new audit firm. So between those two things, it created a compressed timeline in which the cost report preparer failed to make this adjustment prior to the submission. The second issue, which is resulting in part of the take-back, which you'll find on the next page, is for $569,698, which is a reduction in the direct care wage expense. So this is the amount that the state of Michigan has been allocating in the budget to pay additional wages to direct care workers such as nurses, RNs, LPNs, and CNAs, and respiratory therapists. This amount had previously been reimbursed through another program and was ineligible to be included in the Medicaid rate. The typical procedure is that this would not have been submitted on the cost report. On the following page, you can see the impact to financial statements. The initial settlement of $2.7 million was recorded as additional revenue in 2023. The 2023 financial statements will not need to be adjusted. The calendar year 2023 has been audited and is a closed period. It is standard industry practice for the Medicaid cost report settlements to be non-operating and to be in the period that the adjustment occurred. So rather than going back and making that adjustment in 2023, that will occur on the 2024 financial statements. The facility has decided to accrue an estimated take-back of $1.5 million as part of the October 2024 financial statements. This will reduce the non-operating revenue and record a corresponding balance sheet liability. The final adjustment will be made in a future period to true up the balances with the actual amount calculated by the state, and that will occur once we receive the final settlement invoice from the state. We do have an email out to the cost report settlement division, and we are awaiting to hear what the timeline for this kind of a settlement invoice would be. If you flip to the next page of your packet, this outlines our current position. Currently, the facility has roughly about $6 million in their cash balance. This is sufficient enough to return the Medicaid funds to the state and continue to maintain the funding on a day-to-day facility operations. We are not asking for any assistance from the county, and the maintenance of effort, or MOE, is not impacted by this cost report settlement. It has no impact to the MOE fund or the county's obligation to the fund. Once again, we have some additional current efforts which are not part of your packet. I did mention the email out to DARS that we're still awaiting a response on. We've also talked to individuals from Plant Moran, and they have offered to assist us with verifying the expected amount and ensure no future years are also affected. And then we continue to look at our options for financial services in the future. Is there any questions that I can answer about this presentation?
Questions for Destiny? I'll ask a couple. Sorry. So we really have two issues. One is the post-employment benefit costs. That was some amount, 1.266 million, right?
Yes, correct.
And the second item is the direct care wage expense that was like double counted or something, okay?
Correct.
So the 570,000 reduction in direct care, that was a double count, that was just a mistake, okay? In other words, that's why that's the way it is. But it seems to me with respect to the OPEB costs, unless we double counted those also, those might only be a timing difference, might they, or as to when we actually pay the costs that we're allowed to claim in the Medicaid cost reimbursement? Am I being really, really simplistic?
Well, the issue is the Medicaid cost report process requires it to be the expenses paid during that calendar year. And because those were actuarials and not actual physical expenses paid on an invoice, they're not eligible for Medicaid reimbursement.
But at some point, they'll be able to, once we finally pay, won't they? I mean,
Potentially.
that doesn't help
yes.
us right now, but at
Correct.
some point, we'll be able to, we've included them in our, now, we got to make sure we claim them in the future period when we don't charge them against expense,
And
right? Because you charge them against expense in the year, this year.
correct. And the challenge with the actuarial numbers is those actuarial numbers are based off of the idea that everyone that is currently employed at JCMCF will be eligible for retiree benefits. So we've closed the plan for retiree benefits, which will then over time decrease the actuarial expense. But ultimately, we may never actually have to expend that money in that amount because the standard to be able to get OPEB insurance with retirement at this point is closed. And prior to this, it was 15 years. So 15 years for some groups and 20 for others. So the chances of that in the workforce that we're currently working in, we don't see a lot of people with longevity anymore, but we still have to account for it on an actuarial basis.
So we may have booked the expense, gotten the reimbursement we shouldn't have gotten for monies we may never have to pay.
In this case, yes.
Okay, all right. So it really isn't, it might not be just a timing difference, it might be just, we got reimbursed for more than we should have, and you're thinking that this adjustment is correct, and you're going forward.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Other questions with respect to this topic? Mike?
I'm just going to make a comment that this is outstanding. I followed along perfectly, whoever developed this.
Thank you.
Kudos.
Thank you.
We wish it wasn't quite the story that it was telling, of course.
I agree with that.
It is, yes, I would agree. It's well explained, and I hope members understand what it is meaning. I mean, basically what this means is we're having to pay some money back that we got. And oops, it's an oopsie, a big oopsie. And you guys are working on what your response to this will be internally, I suppose.
Yes, that's correct.
Commissioner Willis has a question.
I'm sorry, I'm following it, and I see the differences, the two differences, the Medicaid adjustment for the benefits of the other. Just how do we get to that number of the 1.5 take back? That's what I didn't see.
So that number is an estimate. So this is based off of the reductions here, but then also some other things that were found in our favor during the audit. They were very small, minuscule adjustments that can offset that. But we are asking Plant Moran to also look and make sure that we have a good estimate that we're working off of, because obviously even from the original email that was sent out, that estimate has changed from 1.7 to between 1.3 and 1.5. So we just want to make sure that everything is prepared, but we are prepared to be able to pay that higher amount if needed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so thank you for the explanation to make sure we're aware of your situation and you're taking care of it. I note the statement that the MOE is not affected or at risk. In other words, you don't need anything extraordinary from us at this time. And so thank you for that. Are there any comments with respect to the financial statements that were attached to the board report? Any comments you want to make there?
I was actually going to cover this in next month's meeting because that's our normal quarterly meeting. However, if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them right now.
Well, we appreciate you coming in, not in your normal month, but this was kind of large enough that we wanted to make sure the members were aware of the issue.
Thank you.
Further questions? Thank you. And Chair will entertain a motion to receive the handout that will be.
Commissioner Pulaski?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Barrett.
Commissioner Bear, so I didn't see you.
I just wanted to say, thank you, Destiny. This explanation here did really help. The last couple weeks, not understanding the whole situation, I was very concerned. So this report you handed out just before the meeting helped me a great deal understand. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So you'll get that to us in electronic format. In the meantime, the chair will entertain a motion to receive this extraordinary report. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any, I'm sorry, I didn't catch who got it. Guthrie, who was moving and seconding? Okay, good. All in favor will please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We'll take note of the number of excellent folks from the medical care facility and the DHHS board. Thank you for being here today. And now on to the Department on Aging monthly report. I see Director Paquette here.
Good afternoon. Just a few things to highlight with my report. And as soon as you submit these things, there's always seems to be moving parts and changes. At the time that I submitted the report, we had not received our WellWise Statement of Contract Award. We have since received that award. It's based on a 2-month allotment, so we're looking at funding for October and November. In my report, I indicated 2 areas where we felt there were going to be some decreases in the award. One being to kinship services. In the past, Department on Aging in Jackson, as well as Lenawee and Hillsdale, have had difficulty trying to spend those funds. Even though we've done a lot of outreach, last year we did some outreach with the grassroots groups in the community to see if we could connect with them to look at kinship situations that may need some support. So when you think about those kinship support services, it might be for counseling programs, could be to help somebody pay for a camp, a consumer bill, maybe somebody took on a kinship situation and they needed help with bedding. We've also helped in the past with court fees. So it's kind of like supplemental funding to help in those situations. The WellWise Services felt that they have made some inroads as a way to try to spend those funds, and they're going to keep those funds internal. And basically what we're doing is we're just making referrals to them. So it's not like services are necessarily going away. They're still available. I'm just going a different avenue and trying to move people to reach out to WellWise Services. A difference for us would be we don't have to have that 15% match that was also part of those grant awards. I also, on my report, talked about a decrease to respite services. We anticipated about a $5,000 decrease in communication that we had from them. With the current statement of contract award that we received, it actually was an increase. So it went up to $73,000 is what they're budgeting for the year based on the current statement of contract award. I did reach out to them to see if there was maybe an error with that. They said no, that's where they're projecting things at this point. We could probably see a few different variations in the statement of contract award. Again, these are projected amounts. We're basing our budgets off that first award that we received, and we'll make adjustments as we need to. So we're actually a little bit more positive on the respite services that we do in the community. We recently did our emergency meal packing with the advisory board. It's a great time where our staff comes together with our advisory board, and we package over 600 meals that will go out into the community for the emergency meal, we call them, but it's actually for inclement weather. So as though we have beautiful days that are still warm, we are ready for snow. So in the chance that Jackson Public Schools goes down, that's when we don't send our drivers out, just to keep everybody safe. And those meals would be available in the community. And then we would go ahead and replenish those to our clients as needed. But it's something that we do with all of our home delivered meal clients. I wanted to highlight also something with our Michigan Medicare Medicaid program. There's lots of changes happening in that program as well. In my notes, you'll see that we expect a decrease in some funding award. We received reimbursement for different applications that we would do through the MAP program. So we would receive like a $200 reimbursement if we helped somebody with low-income subsidy. We would receive a $225 reimbursement if we helped with a Medicare savings plan. And that program is ending at the end of January. Something that we've looked at within our budgets. As soon as you hear about changes in revenue, you try to project out, what is your current situation. And so we also have an employee that's been with us for 18 years that's also helped out in that MAP program, and she's resigning. And that was before any of this, was coming about. But with that, she's in the defined benefit plan, and she'll be the new employee when they would come in would be under the defined contribution. So we already realized some savings in that area. We also looked at where she was at due to her years of service. She was on the higher end of the pay scale. There'll be a savings as we have a new employee come in, and they would be on that other end of the pay scale as they begin. So we're able to go ahead and try to offset some of those decreases that we're seeing with that change in revenue stream. So just to let you know that we're being aware of those changes within our budget.
Okay, questions for Danielle? With respect to the emergency meals, those are just like canned meals that they don't spoil or anything?
They do not spoil. So usually it's it'll be like powdered milk. It'll be 2 different canned goods that they can open. Includes juice, some snacks in there. We do staple it shut and hope they don't eat them ahead of time because they are good.
So
though.
I mean, and everybody knows, okay, this is for the day that we just can't make it for some reason.
Yes, there's we put a note on the outside of that outside the bag that'll talk about it being an emergency meal, when it should be used, and things like that. Heating instructions, we have to include all that.
Very good.
Yep.
Chair will entertain a motion to receive the report. Thank you, Commissioner Bear and Commissioner Snell. All in favor will please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Danielle. And now the Health Department. Thanks for coming today.
Thanks for having me. Kristen's unavailable today. We do have our Michigan Department of Health and Human Services accreditation site visit this week, so we're pretty busy at the health department. The site visit has not occurred since 2019, so since pre-COVID. And this review cycle, which is supposed to occur every 3 years, is really a technical site visit. So we're looking at all of our programs, initiatives, making sure we're doing everything we should be doing to meet minimum program requirements. And of course, our objective for this week is to not only meet program requirements, but to exceed as many as we can. My hope is that we'll have some more detailed reports on the accreditation process next month. In regards to the report, I just wanted to highlight a couple things, keep it brief for you all. Pages 2 through 6, one thing that I'm really proud of is some of the outreach initiatives we're really doing. It's been a big emphasis of ours at the health department to be out in the community, to work with our schools and our community partners. And I like to think that we're helping to demonstrate that with all the activities in our schools, all the outreach out in the community. One of the other things I'm really proud of that we accomplished recently is on page 6, and it's discussing immunizations. The health department has historically been able to accept Medicaid and Medicare health plans, but we actually just enrolled with Priority Health so that we're now able to accept Medicare Advantage priority health plans and are working with enrolling with Blue Cross Blue Shield and other insurance providers so that we can accept a broader range of insurances. And this comes into play, of course, a lot in the fall when people are seeking our services for immunizations like flu vaccines and high-dose flu vaccines, which can also often be hard to get. And the hope is that this will be able to help us expand to more families, our immunization services. We see a lot of kiddos come in on Medicaid, and then older siblings or parents will have private insurance. And historically, we've had to suggest that they go to their primary care provider or pharmacy. So this should be able to help with accessibility to some of our services for people that have private insurance. Page 10 is just the thank you. I don't have anything specifically that I'd like to highlight additionally in the report, but if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions for the health department? We appreciate your work and working most especially on vaccinations, the easiest way to avoid disease. I see some indications of continuing some additional cases of pertussis, which is really unbelievable because pertussis is easily vaccinated for.
It's tough, if I may.
Please.
Pertussis is one of the vaccines in the Tdap vaccination series, so it's recommended every 10 years along with tetanus. So many people in the community do get the vaccine, and most schools too. I think it's really important to highlight that well over 90% of our school-age children do receive the vaccines that they need in the community, including the pertussis vaccine. But what we see along with that is around that 10-year mark is that immunity is starting to wane, and we have seen an uptick in the pertussis cases around that middle school age, late elementary school age. One of the benefits of vaccination, though, is none of those cases that we've seen in the schools have resulted in a contagious case, as far as we can tell. So, one of those things we know from vaccines is even if they don't protect you from having the illness, a lot of the time they reduce the severity and contagiousness.
And I see a note in here with respect to Arbor Village. We're still pressing Eagle to do what they're supposed to do out there. We haven't forgot about them. I look forward to having a meeting with Senator Schenck, her office, and Spring Arbor Township, and Sarah Leitner, the representative out that way. Thank you for continuing to note that and to keep it on your screen, because those are folks out there with no options except to live in Arbor Village, and they have had real problems with boil water notices and that sort of thing, which is really unacceptable.
Your advocacy in this is helpful as well.
Mr. Chair, thank you.
Matthew, recently we saw a restaurant have a fire breakout. Do we, as our inspections, deal with those hoods and that type of stuff that are above those grill areas and make sure they're clean and that kind of stuff? Or is it not part of our inspection process?
I can verify and double check. I will say that I've seen images and things like that of what not to do under hoods. So I've seen the bad come from that, which makes me believe it is part of our standard recommendations. But if it's helpful, I can get a checklist for you for your review to make sure that that is a part of our process.
Just be interested.
Of course.
This is, was this White's on West Avenue, Mr. Chair? They were open yesterday. Drove by there and they're open.
I cannot confirm nor deny.
Well, okay, but I think that's what it was, but they're open, so hopefully they are, everything is well.
My concern is that we've increased the number of restaurants in the downtown area, and they're in a lot of antiquated buildings that are over 100 years old, and I just want to make sure that we're keeping track of the stuff we're supposed to be keeping track of, so we don't get in trouble.
Very good. Commissioner Willis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I didn't see anything in there about at one time, there's usually something in there about the environmental health in terms of where we are with plans and different things like that. Approving plans for restaurants or food trucks and things like that. I know we were behind for a while. We were short some staff.
Yes, we were behind. I know we've been working on it diligently. I'd want to use the word caught up, but it's a caveat being, within 30 days to get back to a plan. In regards to how many are still on the waiting list, I can get information on that for you too this week.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Matthew, when you provide that, just provide it to the administration, and they'll get it out to all of us. Okay? Thank you.
Of course.
Chair will entertain a motion to receive the report. Thank you, Commissioner Bear and Commissioner Snell. All those in favor will please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Matthew. And now the Veterans Affairs Report. And happy Veterans Day yesterday.
Absolutely, thank you. Thank you. I was quite busy yesterday on a couple different places that asked me to speak and be there. I would like to thank Commissioner Shotwell for inviting me out to the Kiwanis. I really enjoyed it. It's nice to be around organizations that really you can tell they want to support the veterans, and they had a nice presentation by the VFW home, and that's something it's something that no one knows about, and they've been there since World War I.
A lot of people don't realize that it's Kiwanis that puts out all the flags.
Correct. And I live in Morenci, and we have Kiwanis there and the flags, and people in our own community don't even know who does that, and they're out not just at Veterans Day. I mean, they're out for Election Day. They put them out. I think they get tired of putting them up and down. It's just they add to it. But yeah, I really want to thank you for inviting me. Good afternoon, commissioners. This is our semi-annual report for Veterans Affairs. I'll just highlight these bullets throughout the semi-annual report. Our Veterans Committee is a sitting of four people. We have a full board. We meet monthly. That's the first Tuesday of every month at noon. The American Legion, we have a agreement with the American Legion. They bring in veteran service officers to help us with some of our caseload, which is nice because being a two-person office, myself and my secretary, it's much needed. And as once I provide you with these numbers, you'll see why. We answered over 2,161 calls. And those are calls coming in, not so much calls going out, but we get calls in every nature of anything. Sometimes we even get calls saying that we think we're a vet because VET, they think we're the veterinarian. So it's kind of funny some of the calls we get in our office. Out of those calls, we booked 663 appointments in the office. So it's very busy. Some of the reasons why we're so busy is because some of the new legislation that went into effect, the PAC Act, which added the benefits for all our Afghanistan and Iraq vets with the burn pits and so on. And also they added hypertension to the Agent Orange Act, and also added other outside of Vietnam locations that you could receive the Agent Orange benefits. So there was a huge legislation. Looking for some more legislation coming down the line. I think that they're going to take a big look into healthcare eligibility for veterans. It's going to be right now it's based on income. So there are veterans out there that if you're married and a veteran, you make more than $54,500, you're not eligible for VA healthcare. So it's legislation was signed into 2003. We're really trying to get that abolished on the national level to see if, a veteran shouldn't be turned down for veteran care. We attended 2 conferences. I attended an August training where I became cross-accredited with the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency, which allows me to assist veterans that are under their POA code. and look into their files and help assist them that are local veterans who are rep through the state agency. And I also took my new secretary, Stephanie Allen, to accreditation training up in Higgins Lake, Michigan for the American Legion, which is the POA code that we operate under the county office. So that allows us, that accreditation allows us to assist veterans under their POA code. We did hire a new admin clerk. We had one, then she up and just never came back, and I don't know why, but never really understood. But I have Stephanie Allen, who came from Mullins Roofing. She was an administrator, a secretary over there. She's really come a long way. She's going to be good. She's energetic. She has no bad habits to break when it comes to Veterans Affairs, because when you don't know anything, everything you learn, you retain, and I don't have to break any habits. We're working on getting her signed as a notary so she can do the county burials. And she's also becoming accredited through the American Legion, so she can have access to the VA computer to assist veterans. That would be under my supervision and direction, but it allows to take away some of the burial applications for headstones. She can do those. We were approved for the Jackson County Peacetimers Relief Grant. That was a grant that was put out by the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency last year. We were in receipt of it. Because we're such a small office and the way we wrote the grant, the intentions were 2 secretaries ago that she would sit on as one of the approving members and we would use our committee. Well, the unfortunate thing was we had turnover of personnel, one right after another. We would not have been in compliant with the grant that the rules we set forth. So we didn't have a whole lot of people want it, but we couldn't approve any. So the grant was kind of a bad thing. And they didn't get us the paperwork till May. The grant started in October. End of September, we didn't even get a signed agreement till May of last year. Well, you would think they would fix that, but I'm gonna, after we get done here, I want to provide, just basically share with you a couple emails from the state of Michigan about this grant, because I haven't brought it to the commissioners for signature because we don't have an agreement yet. It's stuck in legal in Lansing. And I also provided the GDX reports. I think that came, hopefully she put it in here. Is there any more slides? Okay. You can see the slide. We have the appointments. That's just basically a graph. It tells you what our appointments were. If you look at the bottom, each color code tells what kind of appointment it was in the office. The next slide is the GDX. I want to bring attention. This is put out by the VA. This is for expenditures. They do this for every state, and they do it, and then they break it down per county. They say the veteran population. The veteran population in Jackson, this is not really a true number of veteran population in the county because of the fact these are veterans that are enrolled in VA healthcare. They're the only veterans they can track, are the ones that are receiving any type of federal benefits. So the veteran population of 9,327, which is down about almost 600 veterans from the last report. They don't say why. I mean, there could be people who move out of the area that are no longer receiving benefits under in Michigan. They could pass away. So I don't know how that's the number they came up with. That 106,509, that's $106,509 that comes to Jackson County in sorts of federal dollars being spent. And they break it down into the total expenditure, the compensation and pension, which was $54,882. And then they go through educational assistance, and they also go to the medical care. The medical care, we're fortunate to have a clinic right here in Jackson, which brings in veterans from all the counties locally. But it also allows, we have an Ann Arbor VA hospital, and I don't know if you've ever dug into VA and hospitals, because every state's got them. we're very fortunate because Ann Arbor's been ranked number 2 in the nation for the care they give. So in the VA's world, Ann Arbor's where you want to be. And so we're lucky. We're very lucky. We're one of only 3 VA hospitals that have a robotic surgery unit. So basically they can, if I was going to have open heart surgery tomorrow, they could go in on a computer, feed in all your vitals, and they could make you crash. They could do everything based on your, I guess it's AI at its finest, but they can go through that and perform the surgery, anticipating any of the side or the bad things that could happen during surgery, and they can actually work on that. And it's nice to have because these doctors, they come from the U of M to use it also. So it's a nice thing. But those are the GDX numbers. And if you see at the top is 2023, they're very slow in getting their information because their auditing office takes some time to get. But they break it down. You can look in here, their states. You can see where Michigan falls into the line when it comes to dollars being spent. At one time when I first started in this business in 2009, we were like 49th out of 50 states when it comes to Michigan. And that's when they since developed the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. And we are, I didn't really look at it, but we're not 49th anymore when it comes to recoveries, which is nice. They've spent a lot of money in the state of Michigan. If you haven't noticed, if maybe you haven't, but there's a lot of clinics that have opened up. I think they've opened up seven new clinics in the last year. So they're really expanding out the coverage area for VA. So they understand what their shortfalls are, which for me, it makes it easier for veterans to get the benefits that they so deserve. And what I want to do is share a couple of emails just so you know what's going on with this grant. I received an email on October 3rd. It says, just a quick update. The fiscal year county Veterans Service Fund grants agreements is in the process of being updated and reviewed by our finance. Once complete, I will compile an award packet and send them out for your signature. With that said, technically, a full executed grant agreement needs to be in place prior to spending. However, the MVA will reimburse any approved allowances prior to their getting the grants out. Then I received this grant saying that, hey, we are tied up in legal through the Department of Michigan Veterans Affairs and the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. So they got new regime at the top of both. And for some reason, it's stuck in legal. So they have not even put out these grants yet. They say we can use them. I'm leery of that because, given I don't have a great big budget to cover what if they don't come through. I always look at the don'ts, and it scares me to spend money that we don't have in hand. And, they say you do it, but I don't know. I guess I'm just looking at, I never was raised that way, and it's kind of hard to spend money if we don't have it. But I guess I may be looking for a little bit of direction, but I will tell you the grant was awarded as $140,711, and $50,000 of that's put up front. So we can, it's a reimburse, it's all on, that's put to us, we spend it, then everything else after that, the 97,000 remaining is on a reimbursement basis. So we didn't use any last year, and that's part of my fault when it comes to that because of staffing and the way we wrote it. I've since talked to the board, like I said, and they're gonna be there to assist us in case we have that. If the secretary leaves, So I just don't want to be one person making the decision. So we're going to use the board as much as we can. But I just wanted to let you know that I will be coming to the board once we have the contract for your signatures. Other than that, that's all I have. Any questions?
Commissioner Bear, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I bank at Old National Bank. A month ago when I was in there doing some business, I got talking to Tony Thompson. He's the banking center manager over on Louis Glick Highway, about 3 miles or 3 blocks from here. He says Old National Bank has a program where they give homes to homeless veterans. How many homeless veterans do we have in Jackson County?
I don't have a clue, and the reason I don't have a clue how many homeless veterans we have is because no one shares that information with us. The Community Action Agency, they have a veterans homeless representative. They control all the SVF grants. They control all of the grants that the VA puts out. They don't, our office has nothing in there. We don't participate in that. That Community Action Agency was one that was the organization that was assigned to that. So I have no idea from the VA or anywhere how many SVF grants or housing grants are given out. And their criteria for their program's a lot different than our criteria, what they consider a veteran and what they don't. So in answer to the question, I don't know how many homeless veterans we have because they don't come into our office. I will tell you, I've had one homeless veteran who comes into our office, and the first thing I do, I get on the phone with Community Agency and the housing advocate, and we do that interaction, but I don't get any feedback on the other way. So I honestly couldn't tell you how many homeless veterans we have in the county because their programs are designed not to stay homeless. They get them housed, some of them are in the travel lodge. So they have just a wide plethora of people that they deal with at the Community Action Agency that they just don't share that with us.
Well, anyway,
I
I'd
can
like
find
to
out.
share this business card with you because they have a program where they give homes to homeless veterans.
Right.
And if you're not the best source for this, if you could pass this information on to some other people.
I can do that because Habitat for Humanity has the same type of program. And these people they're reaching out. I mean, we have a resource of 211. They may call 211 and they move them through the system so fast that nothing ever comes back to VA with a response or, hey, we had this veteran. So they just don't, I guess they don't communicate, but sometimes if you're not in that lane and that's not what your specialty is, you kind of get bypassed a little bit. But I would gladly give that to the housing coordinator over at Community Agency. I definitely would do that. I've talked to her quite a bit. And that changes quite a bit too over there, but the director's still there.
Well, I will give you this business card
All right.
and you can use it or you can get it to the appropriate people.
I will do that. Thank you, Tony.
Okay, any other further comments? The chair will entertain a motion to receive the report. And Commissioner Snell and Commissioner Willis. All in favor will please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you for your time
Thanks for
today.
being here today.
Absolutely.
And now on to the claims. The chair will entertain a motion to pay the claims. Thank you, Commissioner Bear and Commissioner Snell. All those in favor of paying the claims will please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Members, please take note of other minutes that are there for the DHHS board and the VA meeting board. And the reporting schedule for next month, just take note. We will see the medical care facility again, the Department on Aging, the Health Department, the DHHS, and the medical examiner. We're now up to public comment. Are there any public comments? Last chance for public comment. Public comment is now closed. Any community member comments? Hearing none, we stand adjourned at the call of the chair.